Earlier this decade, Madridistas went through some dark days, as Barcelona were dominating European football with a brand of football affectionately termed as tiki-taka. While overly simplistic, that moniker accurately described the aesthetic ethos of the Catalans, which emphasized pure domination of the ball. For Real Madrid, who were going up against this historic team, after a short stint with Manuel Pellegrini as manager, Florentino Perez turned to the antithesis of the Barcelona way, José Mourinho. Pragmatic and a practitioner of what detractors called anti-football, Mourinho arrived off an Inter Milan campaign where he had won the treble after defeating Barcelona in the semi-finals of the Champions League. The hope was that Mourinho's stylistic contrast to Barcelona would provide Real Madrid with a tactical and mental identity that could dethrone their hated rivals. Mourinho, who demanded control of all transfers from day one, started by hiring the types of players that suited his vision for Madrid. Mesut Ozil, Ángel Di María, and Sami Khedira were the marquee acquisitions and signaled the path that the new Madrid were taking. Ozil and Di Maria's signings showed that Mourinho would take a far more offensive approach than what he had done at Inter, while Khedira's arrival guaranteed that there would still be a defensive steel in the team. None of the ensuing transfer windows proved to be as crucial as that one, but further signings such as José Callejon reflected a pattern in Mourinho's approach. Mourinho wanted to build a team that would be the king of transition attacking, and that required pacey ball carriers, incisive playmakers, and combative midfielders and defenders. Of course, Mourinho also had many of these crucial qualities already existing in the old squad. Cristiano Ronaldo, first and foremost, represented the pinnacle of a counter-attacking footballer. He was fast, an explosive dribbler, peerlessly intelligent off the ball, and a voracious goal scorer. Gonzalo Higuaín and Karim Benzema were excellent foils to Ronaldo and possessed the all-around skill set to thrive in any type of system. In midfield, Xabi Alonso's eagle-eye vision, raking long balls, and defensive intelligence made him the ideal base for Mourinho's plan. Further back, Sergio Ramos and Pepe possessed the aggressiveness, physical tools, and technical qualities to be elite disruptors. When combining the existing talent with his new signings, Mourinho had the raw materials to build a generationally great counter-attacking team. All his players needed was the right system, and Mourinho did provide them with it. Without the ball, Madrid defended in a somewhat risky-looking 4-4-2/4-2-4 medium block. Ozil and Benzema would lead the shape up top, while Ronaldo and Di Maria were stationed high and in the half spaces. The basic logic behind Ronaldo and Di Maria's positioning had to do with the basic logic of counter-attacking. If you want to quickly progress the ball to the opposition's goal after winning it, you need to be able to hit outlets high up the pitch as quickly as possible. If those outlets aren't created quickly enough, the defensive team has time to reorganize their shape and slow your attack. Still, on paper, Mourinho's defensive structure looked somewhat suicidal and very different from the type of shape he had built at Inter. If Madrid had defended passively in that formation, they would have been ripped apart. Thankfully they didn't, and Mourinho compensated for the lack of deep defensive width with intense bursts of pressing. Unlike most classic pressing systems, Mourinho's was more directed by individual sets of actions, creating a level of fluidity not normally seen in effective defensive setups. Benzema and/or Ozil would spark the frenzy by charging a center back, which often incited passes out wide due to Ronaldo and Di Maria's narrow positioning. Once that happened, Madrid would quickly shift their structure to pin play on that flank, with the near side forward moving over to create a defensive overload. This created a congested atmosphere where Madrid aggressively tried to win the ball. Once possession was won, the point of attack would quickly be shifted to take advantage of the high positioning of the winger on the far side. If the opposition looked to avoid the flanks and play the ball centrally, Madrid were prepared. If the pass was vertical, Alonso and Khedira would aggressively snap at the heels of their markers with full commitment to winning the ball. If the pass was a little deeper and more horizontal, Madrid's wide players were called into action. It should be noted, Ronaldo tended to skirt his duties on the defensive end as he was the superstar, but Di Maria never stopped running and pressing. Due to his high and rather narrow positioning, Di Maria was primed to press midfield areas and was valued by Mourinho for chasing down multiple players in a singular sequence. Oftentimes, Di Maria's energy inevitably forced the opposition back to the wing, where Madrid could initiate their defensive trap. If the opposing team did manage to break through midfield, Ramos and Pepe were charged to clean up the danger. On many occasions, that meant aggressively stepping up into midfield to make challenges or track a forward. On others, it meant covering depth and going 1 versus 1 against attackers dribbling at them. Essentially, Mourinho created a defensive environment where he hurried opposing teams into offensive actions, creating a chaotic atmosphere of 50-50 duels. This meant that Madrid needed individuals capable of winning their battles regularly, which made the presence of the all-action cadera extremely important. It was a risky strategy, and Madrid were sometimes vulnerable to sharp combination play and players that were especially proficient in tight spaces. Casillas' quickness off his line and unparalleled reflexes proved to be an excellent last line of defense in these cases, but even he couldn't stop everything. But when it worked, which it often did, Madrid created tons of turnovers and were a thrill to watch. Mesut Ozil was the hub of Madrid's counter-attacking system, and he consistently positioned himself between the lines before finding advanced runners with pinpoint through balls. Xabi Alonso played his part through his long distribution, which quickly set off Ronaldo and Di Maria down the flanks. The pace of those two made them one-man threats, but they were also keen to play off of Benzema and Higuain's link-up abilities to advance their team through combination play. The results were spectacular. Madrid led the league in counter-attacking goals in every season that Mourinho was manager, and the focus on an elite transition game pushed them to a record-breaking 100-point league title in the 2011-2012 season. However, even in that campaign, there were signs that sustaining such an approach was difficult. Madrid's number of counter-attacking goals decreased by 38% from 2010-2011 and a further 27% in 2012-2013. Some of that was down to the seasonal adjustments made by the league teams once the scouting report was out, especially the smaller ones who chose to sit extra deep and gave Madrid the ball. But the decrease in Madrid's counter-attacking efficiency in 2012-2013 can also be explained by the breakdown in the dressing room. Without a fully committed team on the pitch, Mourinho's defensive style, which required players to be on top of their game mentally and physically, fell apart. Real Madrid leaked goals instead of creating turnovers, thereby reducing the frequency with which they could counterattack. Nevertheless, despite Madrid's dramatic breakdown at the end of the Mourinho era, there was no denying the team's brilliance at their peak. Quite simply put, from 2010 to 2012, José Mourinho constructed the greatest counter-attacking team ever seen, and it led to the dethroning of a Barcelona team that seemed like they could never be beaten. Thanks for watching this week's School of Real Madrid video. If you like our work, please consider supporting us through our Patreon, and be sure to follow us on all our social media channels.